right, today we're sitting here with John Svitak. How you doing, John?
Good, Joe. How are you?
Good. So I wanted to talk to you a little about your law practice, but before we do that, can you tell us where you are from and your upbringing?
Sure. So I'm from Lisle, Illinois. Grew up in the suburbs, Downers Grove, and went to school first in the Lisle Public Schools, and then my mom started working at St. Joan of Arc School in Lisle, so she brought me over there. Finished school there and moved on to Bennett Academy for high school. Made some really good friends there. Loved my time there. And then went from Bennett to Marquette for undergrad. Studied history and Spanish, got a double major. And I knew in college that I wanted to go to law school. So,
tell me about that. So you're in undergrad, you're learning history, you're learning how to speak Spanish. What drove you to think, hey, listen, I want to go to law school?
Well, I think it was a lot of my time spent in studying history, just gaining a respect for, the way our country was formed, the laws, the government that formed our country, and having an appreciation for, those thinkers. And I also knew that I wanted to help people. And, my appreciation of history and knowing that I wanted to go into a type of business that I could help people on a daily basis, that kind of led me to law and the practice of law and the idea of having a client, somebody that I could help, somebody whose rights I can fight for. That really appealed to me in college.
So did you have any fun at Marquette?
Of course, yeah. I'm a huge basketball guy. I played in high school, and that's, a religion up there. So I loved going to games. They were pretty good when I was there too, so it was a fun time.
So do you ever get back to Marquette at all and watch some games, or you just watch them on TV, or you follow it still?
Oh, of course, yeah. Follow it as much as I can on TV, and I try to make it to at least one game a year, usually on a National Marquette Day.
That's great. That's great. So you ended up applying to law school. I assume you got in?
I did, yeah. Yes. One school invited me.
Where'd you go?
I went to John Marshall in the city.
In Chicago?
In Chicago.
So John Marshall's kind of a historical figure, right?
He is, yeah.
Who is he?
He's the first Supreme Court justice.
See, I thought you wouldn't know that. No, I knew you'd know that. So tell me about that experience at law school. Did you work at any law firms in the summers, or what did you do?
Yeah, so first year was really just focusing on school, making sure I got off on the right foot. And I did start clerking for some law firms out in the suburbs. I did some work for a personal injury firm. And then, I was attracted to getting inside a courtroom. So one of the places that I could do that was the state's attorney's office.
The Cook County State's Attorney's Office, or DuPage?
The Cook County State's Attorney's Office.
Oh, great.
So they have a program called a 711 license, where while you're in law school, you can actually be in a courtroom and work on cases, do motions, things like that. So I applied for that license, and in my last year at law school, I was able to work in a courtroom with the state's attorney's office, did some motions, did some plea agreements. So that was, my first experience being in a courtroom, and it stuck.
Was that where was that at? Was that down at 26 in California, or was that in the Day Center? Or
that was down in 26 in California. Yeah, it was a drug court room. So mostly, some minor offenses here and there, but it was still a great experience.
So I'm assuming that you graduated from law school?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And then what did you do after that?
So after law school, I hunkered down to pass the bar, which I was able to do in the first try. So, and then I immediately started working for my uncle, who ran a insurance defense firm for workers' compensation.
That's great. So you learned from not only a really great lawyer about insurance companies and how they work, but you also learned from a relative, right?
That's true. Yeah, he was a great boss. I'll say that, and it was a great experience because in workers' compensation, again, you're in front of arbitrators all the time. There's kind of a fast track to getting these cases heard and trials. So I got a lot of trial experience. It's not a jury trial, but I got a lot of experience presenting witnesses, cross-examining witnesses. So that was my first 3 years out of law school.
And then tell us about your next experience. What was it? What was your next move?
So then my next move was coming here to the Shannon Law Group.
How long have you been here?
I've been here for a little over 2 years now.
That's great. Well, we're thrilled to have John Svitak here, and why don't you tell us what kind of work you've been doing since you've been here the last 2 years?
Sure. So it's kind of been a mix of, all serious injury type cases, but some auto cases, some trucking cases, which, we're really good at. And then I've been working a lot in our vaccine injury practice as well.
So a lot of people may not understand what that practice is. We're speaking today on St. Joseph's Day on March 19th, 2020. And I think all of us will remember this spring of 2020, as a very serious time in our country's history. Everything's been shut down, and it gets people to regroup on what's important in life and be grateful for everything that we have here. One of the things that I know that we talked about was with this vaccine program is and that's timely with this COVID virus, is that we're trying to develop a vaccine as a country, because up until 3 or 4 months ago, the world didn't know about this virus. And I've always been pretty impressed with how our medical community has developed these types of medications and vaccinations to combat all the great things we've had in our country. As a history major, I'm sure that you understand of the Spanish flu back in the early 1900s, and then all the other influenzas that we've had over the years, and then this cold virus, which is something different. But how does the vaccine court that you deal with, how does that deal with vaccines that people get every day?
Mm-hmm. So we all know the importance of vaccinations, and the government understands that as well. So they want everybody to get vaccinated. They also have recognized that in certain rare occasions, a vaccine may cause an injury to somebody. That's just something that is, a known risk with these vaccinations. So what they've done is they've created this fund for folks who get injured by a vaccination. And, you have to meet some certain criteria. The government has recognized that certain vaccines cause certain injuries and illnesses or conditions. And the good part for us is that we get to work within this vaccine fund. We get to work for our clients. We don't send them a bill. We don't charge them any fees. We don't take anything out of their award or settlement with the government. The government pays us to represent these people. So
how is this fund? And I understand that it's run through the U.S. Court of Claims.
That's correct. Yeah.
So and that's in D.C.
Yes.
Okay. So we're here in Chicagoland, and we represent people that have suffered a side effect from a vaccine. How is it funded? Do you understand how that's funded?
Yeah, so there's a very small percentage for every vaccine that is administered. The pharmaceutical companies pay a small percentage of that to this fund. So every single vaccine that is administered contributes to this fund in a small way, and it grows. And that kind of plays into this whole give and take that, we want pharmaceutical companies to keep developing these vaccines. We want people to keep getting vaccines. So we're going to charge them to create this fund and protect people while still making sure that they get their vaccinations. Okay. So
does everybody that has a side effect from a vaccine, can they get compensation under this fund?
So, like I was alluding to earlier, there's a thing called, or they've developed a vaccine injury table, and the vaccine injury table sets forth the covered vaccines. For instance, the seasonal influenza vaccination is covered under the program. And it also sets forth the injuries or illnesses that the government has recognized are associated with that particular vaccination. So if you meet those two criteria, then you're eligible for compensation. There still has to be a petition that is filed. You still have to go prove that you got that vaccination and that you suffered that illness. And that's where we would come in. But there's a presumption that the vaccine caused the injury.
So people listening to this, if they do have a side effect from a vaccine, can they wait as long as they want to bring a petition?
No, there are strict statute of limitations for these claims.
What does that mean, statute of limitations?
So there's a time limit to bring a petition if you've suffered an injury due to a vaccine.
What's that time?
It's 3 years for injuries and 2 years for death cases.
Okay, so if somebody allegedly dies from a vaccination, the family has 2 years to bring a claim, right?
That's correct.
And then 3 years from what date? From the vaccination itself?
From the manifestation of their injury. But to be safe, these usually are reactions to vaccines that occur close in time to when you were administered the vaccine. So we're talking about usually around 3 years from when you received the vaccine.
Okay, so if somebody believes that they have a problem here, they need to get their medical records together, consult with a lawyer, and make sure that they file a petition, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So where on the internet can they go to learn about this?
So two sites that I would recommend are the Health and Human Services website. They have a lot of information about the program, about how it works. I believe there's even a frequently asked questions section that they can reference. And then the U.S. Court of Federal Claims website has some other information. They even have some guidelines and some sample filings for folks who may want to file a petition pro se or on their own behalf.
I mentioned I listened to you before, and you touched on the fact that when somebody hires a law firm like us to file its petition, they don't have to pay us, right?
That's right.
And any fees that are incurred by our firm are paid by the court through this fund. Isn't that right?
That's right. Yes.
So, and there's limits to how much people can recover, right?
Correct.
So, typically, in my from my perspective, if somebody's injured by the negligence of another, there shouldn't be any caps or limits on how much they should recover. But in this case, with respect to this pharmaceutical fund, there's limits, aren't there?
There are.
And so, are there any limits on amount they can recover for pain and suffering or loss of normal life?
Yes. So currently the limits for pain and suffering, loss of normal life, those non-economic damages is $250,000.
Okay. And then how about, is there limits on how much somebody can recover for, say, medical bills or lost wages?
No, there are no limits. However, the program will only cover your medical bills that are not covered through another health insurance plan. So any uncovered medical expenses, co-pays, things like that, those are recoverable, or you can receive compensation for those.
So they pay for like deductibles, or if you weren't insured, then they could pay it. Or say for example, that it was a surgeon that lost the ability to use his arm, and he couldn't do surgeries anymore. That surgeon could recover any lost wages, right?
Correct. Yeah, I've seen cases in which there are, just as you've mentioned, some serious lost earnings claims in the millions of dollars. There's also future medical expenses, and in some of these cases where there's a permanent brain injury, life care plans are created, and those can range in the millions of dollars as well.
So let's cut to March 19th, 2020 today. So has there been any news with respect to this COVID virus? Any vaccinations with respect to that?
So I know that they're working very hard. The FDA is working really hard on developing a vaccine for the COVID virus. What I've heard is that if and when a vaccine is developed, and may take some time to go through the testing for these things, that because it would be a widespread vaccine for kids, adults, that it would be covered under the program, so that you can receive compensation if there were a side effect caused by the COVID vaccine.
Great. And enough about vaccinations. I think we've covered that. I think you've given a great summary of that. And do you write about these things, these issues?
Yeah. So as news comes out, for instance, like this COVID vaccination, I'll try to write a blog about it on our website. I try to remind people about some of the issues that may be presented by these claims, such as the statute of limitations issues, which comes up a lot in these cases. I'm frequently blogging on our website about some of these various issues.
And shameless, we'll shamelessly say it's at shannonlawgroup.com. So let's finish up here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your life since law school, outside of law? Tell us about some of the things you like to do, who you like to hang out with, that type of thing. Sure.
So, I'll start. I said I'm happily married. My wife and I, we live in Logan Square in Chicago now. She's also an attorney. She does family law. So she wins most of the arguments at home.
Lawyers in love.
My family's still in the area. My parents are out in the suburbs. I try to see them as much as I can. In my free time, I like to read. I like to watch sports, mainly Marquette Golden Eagles and the Bulls. I've got a great set of friends here. I've grown up here. A lot of my friends from high school are still in the area, so those are the best friends I've made, and I've been able to stay in touch with them. So I'd like to see them as much as possible.
You got a dog?
I do.
Why don't you tell us about the dog?
So
What's going on there?
We rescued a little terrier mix this past summer. The funny story there is that I wanted a big dog, and I told the rescue folks that that's what I wanted. And they picked this little guy out for us, told us that it was a big breed dog. So I'm looking forward to having this monster dog at home. And, he's about 20 pounds. almost a year old, so I think that's as big as he's going to get.
He's got a big heart, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How's that going? Living downtown and dealing with the dog, and you have a routine, walking the dog, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. So we get a little bit of help too. We enlist a dog walker to come by and walk him, but I try to get him out when the weather's nice and have him run around because he's got a little too much energy for our condo downtown. That's
great. Well, hey, it was nice talking to you, John. I'm sure we'll have you on again, but thanks for all the information with respect to the area of law and getting to know you, and I'm sure we'll have you on again.
Thanks, Joe. It's a pleasure.